getting stronger, getting faster, getting fitter. It really should be simple, shouldn't it? But instead, we're just drowning in a sea of workouts, diets, and so-called biohacks. Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to crack the universal code of physical improvement, a code that works for everyone, no matter the goal. All right, let's get into it.
I mean, really, why? You've got influencers telling you one thing, and then these super dense scientific studies saying the exact opposite. One week, it's all about high-intensity training. The next, it's slow cardio, or you're doing it wrong. It feels like it's designed to be confusing. But what if the answer wasn't new at all? What if it's actually ancient?
You heard me right. To find the single most important rule in all of training, we're not heading to some fancy modern lab. Nope, we're going all the way back to ancient Greece to meet one of the strongest people who ever lived.
So let's kick off our first section, the ancient secret to fitness. Our story starts with a guy named Milo of Croton. This man was a legend, an absolute beast who dominated the ancient Olympic Games. And his secret? It wasn't some complex program or a special supplement. It was way, way simpler.
Okay, so check this out. The legend goes that after winning his first Olympic title, Milo found a newborn calf and just decided to lift it. And he did that every single day. The next day, of course, the calf was a tiny bit heavier. A week later, a little heavier still. Day after day, week after week, that calf grew into a full-grown bull, and Milo's strength grew right along with it. Think about that. He had no sports scientists, no coaches, no apps telling him what to do. He just had a calf and some serious consistency. And in doing that, he completely by accident stumbled upon the one foundational principle that governs every single effective training program that has ever existed, from his time right up to today. So Milo's little bull lifting routine basically reveals what we now call the 3 golden rules of physical adaptation. And these aren't just, good ideas. They are the fundamental laws. If you can master these, you can master your own progress.
First up is the big one, the principle of overload. It's actually super simple. For your body to change, to get stronger or faster or build more endurance, you have to challenge it with a stress that's just a little bit beyond what it's used to. Your body is incredibly smart, but it's also kind of lazy. It's not going to change unless you give it a very good reason to. And this is the perfect way to think about it. It's that simple. If Milo had just kept lifting the same tiny calf every day, he never would have gotten stronger. For you, this just means adding a little more weight to the bar, or running a little faster, or maybe adding 5 more minutes to your workout. Whatever it is, the calf has to get heavier.
Okay, on to our second rule, which is just as critical, specificity. Now, this one is pure logic. Your body gets good at exactly what you ask it to do. You lift heavy things, you get good at lifting heavy things. You run long distances, you get better at running long distances. The changes in your body are specific to the demand you place on it.
I mean, it sounds completely obvious when you say it like that, right? But you'd be surprised how often people break this rule. They want to get better at pull-ups, so they do endless bicep curls. They want to run a fast 5K, so they only do slow, plodding jogs. The point is, your training has to look like your goal.
And finally, we have periodization. Now, this one sounds way more complicated than it is. It's really just the art of smart long-term planning. I mean, you can't just make the calf heavier and heavier forever without some kind of a plan. Periodization is how you organize your training into logical blocks to keep making progress while avoiding burnout or getting hurt. And here's how it breaks down. You have your macro cycle, which is the big picture, like the entire year leading up to a marathon. That big goal is broken into mesocycles, which are training blocks with a specific focus. Maybe one block is for building endurance, another is for speed. And each of those is made up of microcycles, which is basically your weekly training schedule. It's just a smart way to structure the overload over time. Okay, so we've got our 3 golden rules: overload, specificity, and periodization. But what do they actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at how these exact same rules can create 2 totally different athletes. So look at this comparison. The principles are identical, but how you apply them is completely different. For strength, the calf gets heavier by cranking up the intensity, lifting really heavy weights for just a few reps, with a lot of rest in between. For endurance, the calf gets heavier through more volume and duration, working at a lower intensity but for a really long time with very little rest. Same code, totally different outcomes. All right, get ready for a plot twist. Based on what we just said about specificity, you'd probably think that distance runners should only ever run, right? That lifting heavy weights is for powerlifters. Well, modern science has a very surprising answer for that.
This right here is the #1 fear. It's the biggest myth in endurance sports, hands down. The idea that if a runner so much as looks at a heavy barbell, they're going to instantly pack on 10 pounds of useless muscle and slow down. It seems logical, but it's completely wrong. And the data on this is just wild. One study took a group of competitive distance runners and just added explosive strength training to what they were already doing. The result? They chopped their 2.4-kilometer run time by almost 4%. They didn't get bulkier, they just got faster.
So how is that even possible? Well, it's because heavy lifting doesn't just build big muscles, it builds more efficient ones. It improves your running economy, which means you use less energy and less oxygen with every single stride. It makes your tendons stiffer, turning them into powerful springs that give you more bounce. Your feet spend less time on the ground, and your brain gets way better at firing up all the right muscle fibers at just the right time. You basically become a more powerful, more efficient running machine. And the science on this is brutally honest. This quote really says it all. If you're a runner, a cyclist, any kind of endurance athlete, and you're not doing some form of heavy strength training, you are simply leaving speed on the table. You're not reaching your full potential, period. So, we've traveled from an ancient Greek wrestler all the way to modern running science. We've uncovered the universal rules. Now, let's bring it all home and give you the actual tools to apply this code for yourself. Here they are. These are the dials you can turn to apply the principle of overload. You can train more often, that's frequency. You can train for longer, that's duration. You can train harder, that's intensity. And you can adjust your recovery, that's rest. Literally every single training plan on the planet is just a different combination of these 4 variables. And that's really the key takeaway here. The secret to getting better isn't finding some magical workout that nobody knows about. The secret is understanding the system. It's knowing the rules of overload, specificity, and periodization. Once you get that, you can look at any program or any piece of advice and know instantly if it actually makes sense for you and for your goals. So now you have it. You have the fundamental logic behind getting better at pretty much anything physical. It's a simple, powerful framework that has worked for thousands of years. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?